Good evening, LA. We are here today with Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, as she talks about her mother, Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft was a prominent feminist of the early 1700s, and she wrote a book titled A Vindication of the Rights of Women, which was one of the earliest books of feminist philosophy. Shelley will be speaking about how her mother's book influenced her writing in Frankenstein. Shelley, when you were writing the book, did you realize how many allusions there were to your mother's work?
I most definitely did not. I originally wrote this book one rainy season on Lake Geneva for a ghostwriting contest with Lord Byron and Percy Shelley. It's only now, years later, and after reading it multiple times, that I have realized how much my mother's book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, influenced my writing in Frankenstein.
And in what specific ways did your mother's A Vindication of the Rights of Women impact your writing in Frankenstein?
Obviously, my mother's book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, greatly influenced the feminist side of my novel. Upon first inspection, it seems as though the men in the novel are all powerful, whereas the women are treated as merely objects. However, it is actually this contrast between the males and females that forms the feminist side of my novel. I actually brought my mother's book, A Vindication, in order to show you some quotes. Here. My mother first states, quote, "Nature in everything demands respect, and those who violate her laws seldom violate them with impunity." And she even adds that men, quote, "continually undermine their power through ignorance or pride." These quotes essentially mean that in society, men undermine their power and it ultimately leads to their hamartia. For example, in my novel, Frankenstein, Victor, when creating the creature, does not have enough knowledge and he goes against the gods, which ultimately leads to his destruction. My mother further states, quote, "What but a pestilential vapor can hover over society when its chief director is only instructed in the invention of crimes or the stupid routine of childish ceremonies?" My mother is essentially asking why men rule society if they make such childish decisions. For example, in my novel Frankenstein, Victor, after creating the creature, realizes what a mistake he has made and runs to his room to pout. The creature also seems to have childish temper tantrums. For example, he burns down a house just because he is mad at the family. Even the end of my novel seems to reinforce feminism. The last sentence of my novel states, quote, "He was soon borne away by the waves and lost in darkness and distance." Now that I think about it, even in writing this line, I was referring to specifically males. The creature is being returned to nature after an act of hubris, committed by males who failed and abused their power.
Wow, that is some very interesting stuff. Is there anything else you wish to share with us in your last few minutes of showtime?
Oh, definitely. I could talk about my novel all day if I had the chance.
Oh no, that is quite all right. Why don't we finish up?
Okay, just one last thing. In my novel, the creature asks Victor to create him a female companion so that he will not be alone in his misery. However, Victor realizes that if he creates the female companion, she may, quote, "become 10,000 times more malignant than her mate and delight for its own sake in murder and wretchedness." He had sworn to quit the neighborhood of man and hide himself in deserts, but she had not, and she, who in all probability was to become a thinking and reasoning animal, might refuse to comply with the compact made before her creation. They might even hate each other. I subconsciously wrote this, most likely based off of a recurring theme in my mother's book, A Vindication of the Rights of Women. She argues that if women are raised and treated equal to men from the moment they are born, then they will not have to succumb to the way they are treated. Since Victor would be creating the female creature equal to the male creature, she would not have to do whatever the male creature wanted her to, and she would likely become her own being, capable of doing whatever she wished.
Okay, and it looks like our time is up. That was Mary Shelley speaking about how her mother's work, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, greatly alludes to her own novel, Frankenstein. Thank you, Shelley. You can go. And now for tonight's special, a little bit more on the novel Frankenstein. We will learn about how the frame narrative affects the feminism in the book.